Do your periods make you feel crazy? Do you feel out of control, overwhelmed, anxious, and depressed in the week or two leading up to your period? Do you find that your periods are more problematic than other people's? Do you feel like your menstrual cycle is negatively impacting your life? Do you feel as though you spend half of your life just barely hanging on and the other half picking up the pieces? If this sounds familiar to you, it's possible that you could be 1 in 20 people who menstruate that suffer from premenstrual dysphoric disorder, or PMDD. I've been there too. My name is Catherine, and I've had PMDD for over 15 years, or pretty much half of my life. You've probably heard of PMS, or premenstrual syndrome, which is a collection of symptoms that happen just before the period and can include bloating, breast tenderness, food cravings, and feeling just a little more emotional than usual. 75 to 90% of people who menstruate suffer from premenstrual syndrome. Premenstrual dysphoric disorder impacts 5 to 10% of people who menstruate, and it's a severe negative reaction to the normal changes in hormones that happen throughout the menstrual cycle. Contrary to popular belief, it is not due to a hormone imbalance. It's a cyclical, hormone-based mood disorder. It's usually triggered or made worse by events such as puberty, pregnancy, miscarriage, birth, postpartum, or menopause. It also has symptoms that are emotional, mental, and physical. What separates PMDD from PMS is the degree to which it affects your life. Someone with PMS, for example, might tear up at a movie. Someone with PMDD will have intrusive thoughts about harming themselves. In fact, 30% of people with PMDD will make an attempt on their own life in their lifetime. To give you an idea of the severity of PMDD, here are some stats from the International Association of Premenstrual Disorders. 16.8% of PMDD sufferers reported having lost a job due to their disorder. 98% felt that PMDD put a strain on their partner relationship. 56.7% actually lost a partner due to the impact of PMDD on their relationship. 97% felt that PMDD had a negative impact on their family relationships. And 42.7% reported an impact on how they are able to raise their children. The IAPMD also reports that up to 90% of people who suffer from PMDD go undiagnosed. This is why it's so vital to be made aware of this condition so that you can spot it in yourself and others. So let's talk a little bit about the symptoms. The main criteria of these symptoms is that they must be present in the week or two leading up to your period, and after your period they start to fade a little bit, and there'll be a period where you don't have most of the symptoms at all.
There are 4 main symptoms of PMDD.
And you have to display at least one of these symptoms in the time leading up towards your period, so the luteal phase. The first one is rapid mood swings. So going from feeling sort of normal to suddenly being very angry, very irritable, very emotional, maybe crying, or feeling very anxious or depressed. So it's just a very quick change in emotion. The second one is increased irritability, including rage, interpersonal conflict, general feelings of anger, just feeling sort of wound up before your period. The third symptom is feeling depressed, feeling down, feeling unmotivated, putting yourself down, having a lot of sort of self-deprecating thought.
The fourth main symptom
is feeling anxiety. So you might feel tense, on edge, not quite at ease. You might have panic attacks and just feeling very nervous.
So as you can tell from these first 4 symptoms,
they also include other illnesses such as depression and anxiety. But what makes them different is that they only occur in a certain phase of the cycle, a certain part of the month. And because these symptoms aren't always present and they are cyclical, it's often misdiagnosed as bipolar disorder. But when you start to plot your symptoms on a calendar or a tracker, you'll notice that they actually happen in the period of time that happens immediately before your period. There are 7 more secondary symptoms.
So you have to have at least one of the first 4 that I mentioned.
And a total of 5 out of all of the symptoms. Other symptoms include decreased interest in your normal activities, fatigue or lack of energy, changes in appetite, so eating more or eating less, changes in sleep, such as hypersomnia, sleeping too much, or insomnia, not sleeping enough, difficulty concentrating, which includes a decrease in executive function. So if you also have ADHD, this is going to be a lot harder time of the month for you to stay organized and to remember things. Feeling generally overwhelmed by your emotions and your circumstances and just feeling generally out of control. There's also physical symptoms such as pain, inflammation, bloating, joint pain, breast tenderness, cramping, lower back pain, generally a lot of uncomfortable symptoms, physical symptoms. So if you're thinking this sounds a lot like you might be wondering, how do I get diagnosed? So the main thing is to speak with your doctor or your gynecologist about your symptoms. To get a diagnosis, you actually need to have at least 2 or 3 months of your symptoms tracked on a tracker or a calendar so that they're easily able to see that your symptoms are lining up with your menstrual cycles. You can find lots of trackers online. IAPMD actually has a printable tracker sheet that you can use to track your symptoms throughout the month. You can also use an app like Me versus PMDD, where you can go in and track your cycles digitally. I'll leave both of the links to these in the comments below so you can go check those out. Of course, you can see your doctor about your concerns ahead of time, but you'll probably need to fill these out. So as soon as you've got these filled out, you can go to your doctors with the information. IAPMD also has a lot of resource sheets for you to go in to bring to your doctor's appointment to discuss the symptoms and how they're impacting your life. I really recommend that you do this because PMDD is not well researched or well understood by the medical community. And like I mentioned, up to 90% of people with PMDD go undiagnosed, and it's very common to be misdiagnosed with other things such as bipolar disorder, anxiety, or depression because they have similar symptoms. Of course, you may have a comorbid disorder such as depression or anxiety or ADHD or something similar, which can make things a little bit more complicated. But if you find a worsening of your symptoms before your period, that is called premenstrual exacerbation, or PME. It can take an average of 12 years for someone with PMDD to get accurately diagnosed, with seeing an average of 3 different doctors. So the key that I've learned here in my own experience is that it's really important for you to know what's going on with your own body and to advocate for yourself with your doctors and your medical team. If your doctor doesn't believe in your experience and you think that this is something that's really impacting your life, it might be time for a second opinion or a new doctor. Please keep in mind that I'm not a medical professional. I'm just someone who suffers from PMDD myself, and I've spent many years learning about PMDD and getting myself educated. And it's because of this that I'm so passionate about spreading the word about PMDD and raising awareness so that the people who are suffering from it can get properly diagnosed and find proper treatment. The first line of treatments is generally changes in diet, exercise, and lifestyle, which I do agree with. But the thing that separates PMDD from PMS is the degree to which it affects your life, and it sort of warrants a more aggressive approach, I believe. So diet, exercise, and lifestyle are great. Personally, I have made a lot of changes in my own life, including changing my diet, learning and teaching yoga, which I'll talk a little bit more about on my channel in the future, and just generally changing my lifestyle to be a little bit more calm and restorative. Unfortunately, there is no targeted treatment for PMDD. All of the treatments are just used off-label. You might be prescribed birth control, which is obviously used for contraception, but used off-label to sometimes treat PMDD. You might be prescribed antidepressants, obviously used for treating depression or anxiety, but also sometimes used to treat PMDD. These are the 2 most common treatments, but it's hard because those with PMDD don't seem to respond to these medications in the same way. So what works for one person might not work for another. It's sort of just a process of trial and error. Generally, if these don't work, doctors might prescribe a form of chemical menopause, where you are either injected or you take medications to stop you from ovulating and having a menstrual cycle at all, a chemical menopause, or surgical menopause, in which both ovaries, fallopian tubes, and the uterus are removed. This may sound extreme, but the symptoms of PMDD can be very extreme and it can be life-altering. This surgery is life-saving for some people. Over the next few weeks, I'll be sharing a bit more information about PMDD. I'll talk a little bit about how PMDD has affected my life, the common ways it affects the lives of other people suffering from PMDD. I'll talk a little bit about treatment, and I'll talk about how I cope with PMDD myself. If this sounds like somebody that you know, please share with them. Again, this disorder is really not well known, and lots of people are truly suffering, and we'll talk a bit more about how it affects people's lives. But please do share if you can, share widely so we can get the people the help they need. If you're interested in more resources, you can sign up for my mailing list. I'll put the link below. My newsletter is called Yoga for the PMDD Cycle, and it'll include lots of yoga practices and resources to help you with your PMDD journey. I'll be building a free online resource library that has lots of links, including different educational resources, support groups, Instagram and Facebook must-follows, and lots of my own content as well, which will include yoga classes for each phase of your cycle and lots more PMDD related content. Also stay tuned for my upcoming online course, The Dysphoric Yogi, which will be a 6-week online course to support you in your own PMDD journey, which will include yoga and meditation practices, different lectures on how to cope with PMDD, and just general support for you to find what works best for your unique body. If you already know that you're a PMDD warrior, hey, what's up? You're my people. Part of
one of the worst groups ever.
But we do our best to support each other. So I really welcome you, and I hope that you join my newsletter and my Facebook community. I'll be posting lots more content on there. Like I mentioned, yoga content to support you throughout your cycles. So come say hello, let me know who you are, where you're from, and I'd love to connect with you.